Ethan Brooks stepped into the glass headquarters of Sterling Dynamics in Chicago, Illinois, wearing his only navy suit, carefully pressed before sunrise. He had rehearsed every answer while preparing breakfast for his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Today was supposed to be a fresh beginning after months of temporary jobs and rejected applications. The receptionist smiled politely before directing Ethan toward the executive interview room. His palms were sweating, but he reminded himself why he needed this position. Lily needed stability, and their small apartment lease was expiring soon. Ethan entered confidently, unaware that the company's famously demanding CEO, Victoria Hayes, was waiting. Victoria barely looked up from Ethan's resume. She was 38, brilliant, intimidating, and known for ending interviews within minutes. She asked about leadership, deadlines, and failure. Ethan answered honestly, explaining how losing his previous job had forced him to become resourceful. Victoria listened silently, then asked something unexpected. "Tell me about your greatest weakness," Victoria said. Ethan hesitated. "Sometimes I carry other people's problems as if they were mine." Victoria raised an eyebrow. "That sounds noble." Ethan smiled faintly. "It isn't always. My daughter once missed school because I stayed late helping a neighbor during an emergency." The interview continued, becoming increasingly uncomfortable. Victoria challenged every answer, questioning Ethan's limited corporate experience. Finally, she closed his resume. "Mr. Brooks, I don't think you're what Sterling Dynamics needs." Ethan swallowed his disappointment, thanked her respectfully, and stood. He refused to argue, because rejection had already become familiar. Outside the building, Ethan walked toward the elevator with his shoulders lowered. He checked his phone and saw Lily's message, "Daddy, did you get the job?" He stared at those innocent words, unable to type an answer. Before the elevator doors opened, he heard hurried footsteps approaching behind him. "Mr. Brooks," Victoria called. Ethan turned around, confused. The CEO was walking quickly, something he had never imagined seeing. She stopped several feet away, breathing harder than expected. "Wait," she said. Ethan frowned. "I thought the interview was over." Victoria looked directly into his eyes. "It was. Then I realized something." She held his resume tightly. "You told me you stayed late to help your neighbor. Why?" Ethan shrugged. "Because she needed help." Victoria studied him carefully. "You didn't mention payment." "There wasn't any." Victoria's expression changed. She had spent years hiring polished executives who could discuss compassion without ever practicing it. Victoria suddenly asked, "What would you do if your manager demanded something profitable but unfair?" Ethan answered immediately. "I'd explain why it was wrong, even if refusing cost me my position." Victoria nodded slowly. "And if that happened?" Ethan smiled sadly. "I'd walk away. I've already learned how to start over." That answer stopped Victoria completely. She remembered her father's advice from years earlier: hire people who know when to protect what matters. Sterling Dynamics had recently suffered a serious internal crisis involving falsified reports. Victoria had been searching for someone trustworthy, but every impressive candidate had focused on bonuses and promotions. "Come back inside," Victoria said. Ethan hesitated. "For another interview?" She shook her head. "No. For a conversation." Ethan followed her upstairs, still uncertain. Victoria offered him coffee and explained the company needed an operations coordinator who could manage people, solve emergencies, and recognize problems before they became expensive disasters. Ethan admitted he lacked experience with several systems Sterling Dynamics used. Victoria appreciated his honesty. Instead of pretending, he asked questions and suggested practical solutions based on his previous warehouse and delivery work. By the end of the conversation, Victoria had stopped looking at his resume and started listening to him. Then Victoria made an offer: a full-time operations position with benefits, training, and a salary far better than Ethan expected. He stared at the paperwork. "Why me?" he asked. Victoria answered, "Because when you thought you had nothing to gain, you still chose integrity. That matters here." Ethan accepted, but before leaving, he asked whether she could give him one favor. "I need predictable hours because of my daughter." Victoria smiled. "Then we'll build your schedule around your responsibilities, not punish you for having them." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in months, hope felt real. The next morning, Ethan brought Lily to school wearing his new employee badge. She hugged him tightly and asked, "Did they like you?" Ethan laughed. "Eventually." Across town, Victoria reviewed his onboarding paperwork and smiled. She knew hiring Ethan had been more than filling a position, it was restoring something valuable to her company. Months later, Ethan became one of Sterling Dynamics' most trusted employees. He never forgot the day he walked away believing he had failed. Victoria never forgot running after him. Their unexpected encounter became a reminder throughout the company that character could appear in ordinary people, especially when nobody was watching.